Hi, my name is Laurel Hoseth, and today I'm going to tell you about my experiences in Guatemala. We went to Antigua this last March. It was a really great experience, and traveling is just a really awesome experience that if you ever get the chance to do it, you should do it. So we started out, we're from Minnesota, obviously, so it was quite the change. We got to Guatemala, and there's people just standing at the gates of the airport in Guatemala City, and it was so different because they were staring at us because we're different, we're American, we're blonde, light skinned, and we were definitely the minorities down there. And so we got to Guatemala City, and then we drove to Antigua, which is about an hour, and we had our guide Leo. He spoke a little bit of English, but his accent was kind of something to adjust to at first. It was a little bit interesting with him. He got kind of frustrated because we kept having to ask what he really meant. And so we got to Antigua, and we got to our homestays, and all they pretty much did was dropped us off like in groups of 3 or 4. There's 12 of us, so they dropped us off in groups of 3 and 4 and gave us to this family, and that's about it. Like, we had no idea. They didn't speak English. We, were okay at Spanish, and so it was quite interesting at first, but we got there. They fed us at a little sandwich shop. It was really good. I was expecting the food to be spicier, but it really wasn't bad. So my family that I stayed with 2 other girls. We had their family. The host mom's name was Veronica, and she had her family. Most of her family lived with her because unless the kids get married, they stay in their own house. So Veronica had a couple of daughters and a couple of sons, and also a couple of grandkids that lived with her. So that house was always busy, and it was always interesting, and we made some pretty great friends. So later that day, our tour guide took our group, and we went around and toured like churches and just a lot of old buildings. And the first thing about Antigua is it's very colorful, and it's a rule or a law that you can't destroy a building. A lot of the buildings are from Spanish origin, and so they have a certain style to them. The structure is just a certain way. And the rule is you can restore a building, but if you do, you have to keep the old materials showing in some part of the building. So a lot of these buildings looked really run down and just kind of, it looks like it was very poverty-stricken, but once you looked inside, it was amazing how beautiful it was. They had courtyards inside the houses, and the buildings were, they all touched. They were all just right consecutive. They had no alleys. But once you looked inside those buildings, it was just gorgeous. They had these inside the flower gardens inside their homes, and it was a really cool experience because you look at these houses and it's amazing what can actually be done with them. And so we went and toured a bunch of these cathedrals and such, and in 1972 there was an earthquake in which a lot of the old churches got destroyed. So they were in kind of a reconstructive mode still, even to this day, but a lot of them still had the original materials showing. So that day that we went and toured everything, we learned a lot about the Maya, and we learned that there's 2 different people. There's the Maya and the Mestizo. The Mayas are the traditional, the original people of Guatemala, and the Mestizos are a mixture of the Spanish and the Maya. And so there's kind of a stigma, or I don't know how to say this, a separation between the two groups. They each think that one is better and more pure than the other, but you can definitely tell the difference between the Maya and the Mestizo because the Maya have the special dress. They call it a topical dress. They have really brightly embroidered clothing, and a lot of them actually live outside of out of Antigua. They live in surrounding villages, but they travel to Antigua every day to sell their products, and that is how they have the markets, and they have just these huge markets with these huge colorful stuff. It's a very interesting experience, but for the first time in our lives, we were the minorities. We were stared at, we were, pointed at, whistled at. It was a very, very good experience just because it opened our eyes to the different worlds instead of just being stuck in our own little world, and just it got us out of our small town. Well, I hope you enjoyed my speech, and that is just my spiel about how traveling is such a great experience and how it's really important in your life experiences. Thank you for listening.